Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, it's the most wonderful time of the year. No, I'm not talking about Christmas, mate. I'm not talking about New Year. It is transfer season. How you doing, man?
You know what, man? I think we owe our good viewers an apology because I believe we signalled the start of the transfer
Way
renewal
too early.
season a while back, and we've been disappointed, haven't
Yeah,
we? Like
yeah.
we thought it started early. There were little ones like João Felix. That feels ages ago, doesn't it?
Wow.
But believe it or not, I think we probably signalled it a bit too early. But we're recording this on the 30th of December, mate. And to be honest with you, I thought it would like considering normally you get a new manager, wealthy club, the links are flying. And, we had Jeremy Pino and Nicholas Jackson and those kind of guys from Villarreal pretty early on, Pau Torres. But it's really slowed down, hasn't it? So if the ITKs and the journos weren't going to give us their thoughts on Villa's January business, we thought you guys might.
Absolutely. So we thought we would tweet out from the Heart of the Holte account on Twitter and see who you guys would like to sign. And Dan and I will give our expert opinions, and we'll talk through some of them because there was plenty of you guys who wanted to get involved, and there are plenty of exciting players. One that's just completely caught me off guard that I'm looking at now, but oh my god. Um, Starting off, mate, starting off strong, we've got a triple header, and it is caveated with, is this realistic? No, but we can dream. Lilian Thuram. Oh my god, now I'm getting confused. It's not Lilian Thuram. Marcus Thuram, who's a player who we've obviously spoke about on this podcast before. Pau Torres and Joao Felix. I mean, where do we start? Of the three, the most realistic I would say is probably going to be Pau Torres, and that's the one that like legit. That's one that we can all get excited about because I do think it will happen, just based off the Emery's previous obviously being at his previous club, and Pau Torres had a really impressive World Cup campaign, and he's kind of at that coming of age, and I just get really excited at the prospect of next season going into that with a centre back pairing of Pau Torres and Diego Carlos. I think that would be the most wonderful pairing that we've had for the longest time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, mate. I think Pau Torres is a player that I think you need to be really careful with who you partner him with because I think he's a more elegant centre back. He's fleet-footed, he's quick, but I think that would mean that, to put it bluntly, I think some in Premier League circles would mean he's soft.
Yeah,
Like he's not a physical presence in the like sort of as a big bruiser as a centre back, but Diego Carlos definitely is, and so that's why I think in tandem they would work really well together. Like when Pau Torres was linked for the longest time to Man United, I was very much against that because he's not that. He's the centre half. He's the Carvalho to the John Terry. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
absolutely.
And that's why the PK to the Puyol and stuff like that. And I think he wasn't the kind of guy that you'd want to build and structure a defence around, but he's a wonderful complementary piece. And I think Diego Carlos is actually someone that would work really well with him. And so it'd be interesting to see what kind of structure in that deal would take place. Obviously, he's been bounded about in a lot of elite circles, and so I doubt that interest has gone away. So we'll do well to fend that off. But if that Emery link is strong enough, as Kaza said in the tweet, we can dream.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. That's what we'd want. And I mean, at the moment, it sounds like Felix is all but shipped off to United, really, doesn't it? It's either United or Arsenal that are both interested at the moment. And that, I mean, we got way too excited way too quickly about that. We should have known that that was never going to happen. But we can dream, as the tweet says. Next one, Stephen L. Wright. I know Stephen he's pretty frequently in the replies and in the comments, so shout out to Stephen. Jonathan David. This is one that I can get behind, but I think it's one that makes me somewhat of a hypocrite because for me being someone who is sort of has anguish towards Ollie Watkins for the lack of unfulfilled potential. Joe David is that exact guy, and it's not really happened for him at Lille just yet, and he didn't have the greatest World Cup for Canada either. And I know that this kid is ready to explode wherever he goes, and that he is a phenomenal talent, and I recognise that absolutely. But I just don't think that we can afford to take a gamble on a Joe David right now, mate, with where we're at and the the frustration and the fact we're at the end of the tether with the strikers. To take a punt on somebody who's been in League One for the past 3 years and then in Belgium before that and still hasn't quite cracked it, it would make me a hypocrite, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, and to be honest with you, I was really anxious about this move in the summer because he had a great, he sort of exploded in the first half of Liga One last year. He was grabbing braces left, right, and centre, and it was all going really well for him until the new year. And I don't know how big his New Year's Eve was, but this boy must have gone hard because he fell off a cliff going into 2022 from the 16th of January to the end of the season on the 21st of May. He scored 3 goals. And I'm going to say, looking at that now, that's about 15 games, maybe. Having got about 15 in in the games running up to that point. And in the summer, going off that form, I was really against this move. However, I must hold my hands up and apologise to Mr. Jonathan David because he has been fantastic this season for Lille. Although saying that, he has just gone sort of 4 or 5 games without a goal, but obviously that was around the World Cup and stuff like that. But he has had a really good season so far in 22-23, 16 games, 9 goals, 4 assists, which is not shabby at all. And that's in a Lille side which obviously they won the league not too long ago,
Yeah,
so
they
it feels
did.
kind of crazy to say, but they've probably been, I think, of all the title wins in the past 10 years, I would challenge anybody to find a worse title defense than Lille did last year. And this season it has been better. They're up in sixth, but they're nowhere near the lofty heights that they were. And so yeah, I think I owe him a little apology because he's been better than I expected, like judging his form at the end of last season. But yeah, it's such a difficult one to gauge. Such a difficult one to gauge. But yeah, I do understand the reservations with Ollie Watkins and getting someone that is of a similar ilk. But yeah, judging on his numbers, I think he'd be an upgrade.
Yeah, it's just hard to know how they take to a new league, and I think the way he plays and that being probably more of a transitional striker would maybe suit the Premier League. Maybe I was being too harsh, but at the end of the day, it's a gamble, and it's going to be a 30 million euro gamble that can we afford to make? I don't know. I'm not sure. So, I mean, I'd be buzzing if we signed him. I really would. But if Danny Ings can't do it in the Villa, I don't really expect Jonathan David to either. And another mate, we've talked about this guy to death, but there's been about 50 different. There's not been 50. I've exaggerated, but there's been so many people who have mentioned the name Arna Dan Juma. I It's not I don't want this to happen. I just don't think it solves any problems that we have immediately.
Yeah, this is again, it's a very difficult one because his numbers are very good, and when you're struggling like we are to get goals, you sort of look at what he's doing on a sort of regular basis, and it's difficult to say. He's had some problems this season. He hasn't been playing as much football as I think he'd like. I believe there was an injury in there, and so he's only actually made 6 appearances for Villarreal in La Liga this season. A couple of goals to go along with them. So, I mean, regardless, the numbers are still pretty good. Not all of them have been full 90s either, as I believe, he's coming back from this injury. But yeah, he's a very interesting player. Obviously, he was really good in the Champions League last year. 6 and 11 in last season's Champions League, which is a very good barometer to judge him by, really. But yeah, it's such a difficult one, mate. It's such a difficult one, and obviously he has played in the Premier League before, and it wasn't great. He played admittedly for Bournemouth in 2019, 2020. No goals or assists in 15 games. No goals or assists in 15 if you include all comps. He then did drop down to the Championship and had a wonder season, got 15 goals in Bournemouth's Premier League push in 2020-21 before going over to Spain. Had a really good first season. And as I said, with injuries and whatnot, it's not been as good this year. But Yeah, those kind of wide players drifting in does sound a bit like Ollie. And again, I think he's better than Ollie, but that out and out nine is I think what we need.
Absolutely, man. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, and I don't know. Like I would certainly be really happy if we signed him, but I just don't know how much I can get behind it. Like really improving the 11 where we're at the moment. I think it feels like more of a luxury deal. I hadn't realised this, mate, but look, there's been a fair few that have mentioned a return for Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
I listen, listen. No, it's too soon, isn't it? I don't know. I think he's going to want a really good crack at City, if we're being completely honest. And there's been all this. They're going to need to sell him to get Bellingham in and to do this and to do that. I I think to sort of save everybody's face, Manchester City, Jack Grealish, and Pep Guardiola, he stays for another year and a half at the very least to make it at least appear like things haven't gone as terribly as they have. And that's not to say that they have been bad and he's been bad, but he hasn't hit the ground running and he hasn't lived up to the lofty heights of Dean Smith's tricky villains. And we all knew that that would be the case, and we all knew that Pep Guardiola would coach the flair out of him, and we just knew that this wasn't going to be a move that worked for him. But would I be open to a return? I'd be stupid to say no, mate. I would be stupid, and I think we all would be really.
Yeah. I think he'd fit those wide 4-2-2 positions like a dream. I really do. I think he'd offer a real tactical flexibility that we don't have. Uh, do I think he would come? No. No, because regardless of the narrative around the move in Villa and Man City circles, every neutral is going to see that as a failure and that he's heading back to Birmingham with his tail between his legs, admitting that he made a mistake. And Jack, for all the lack of form, doesn't seem unhappy. Doesn't seem unhappy. He still seems very involved. You can see in his reaction to getting goals and assists just how much they mean to him, probably more than they did at the Villa, because you can see how much he wants those moments. And when he gets them, there's a real relief. And I always sort of look at how he reacts to goals compared to how the rest of the City team does. And you can see it almost. They're also nonchalant normally when they hit the back of the net, but for Jack, it's like such a like outlet of emotion. We spoke a little while ago about Frank Kessié and how he had like gone to Barca and it hadn't really worked out for him either, and whether he'd leave so soon. And I think when you get that move to an elite club, you'll do everything within your power to make it work. And I think that will continue to be the case. The big thing about this deal is the structure of it financially. I mean, how much of that 100 million would Man City want to make back? After only a year and a half, are they going to cut it to 40 million? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think if you wanted to go and get Jack Grealish, I think you're at least going to have to stump up 60 million. And can I see us doing that in a position like that? I don't think not yet, not yet. I think this will come back eventually, but I think we're at least two transfer windows away.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. One that excited me somewhat, and maybe put a bet on it himself. Ivan Toney. Obviously, you wouldn't want him to get a ban, and I think, if I'm being honest, I think the next like logical move for Ivan Toney is to Manchester United. I think that is a move. I think it just makes so much sense. Like United need an out and out nine. He has probably earned a crack at a big club, and it's as big as you get, really, Manchester United. But I think he would fit the bill so perfectly. And if he hadn't done the Zulu sign to the whole end, I would I would probably drive him up immediately. Um, but again, like that, this is a deal. This costs you 65 million at least. You're
Yep.
selling to a fellow Premier League rival, English tax, and maybe this whole betting thing does affect his transfer value and all that kind of stuff. And that all of that is obviously it's up in the air right now. We don't like he's still playing for Brentford. He's not been officially charged with it, but as I say, I do feel like if it wasn't for that, he probably would go to United. Um, so it would be interesting to see where Villa kind of sit in that kind of at that kind of table. Like, could we get Ivan Toney? Do you think, or
I
is it
don't
just a
know.
rung too high?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so because I think maybe there is a, a stepping stone club in there. I think he would cost a fortune.
Yeah.
I think he would cost a fortune. I think if we're going to shop around in the Premier League, I would perhaps wait until Fulham get relegated and go for someone like Mitro, because I
Okay.
think you're going to get better. But I'll be honest, I think
I think
Tony
they're getting
is about as
relegated.
well. That's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
I think he's Mitro feels like he should be 31 and he's not. He's like 27,
Yeah.
28 maybe. And he just scores so many goals. And I'm surprised he's still at Fulham, to be honest with you, because I think he's class. But I mean, on Tony, the player I'm actually speaking about, he I think that's about as good a striker as we can hope to get because I've said many times that we're not shopping in that elite bracket. And that, if people are like, to use the João Felix, like, well, we're so far off that. We're so far off that. And I think if we do upgrade on Ings and Watkins, I don't think it's going to be a gigantic leap. And I think Tony is probably about as good as we're going to get. The question is can you get better value for money elsewhere? But I think Tony comes with such little risk. But there obviously is that betting allegation sort of looming over his head, well, 262 betting allegations looming over his head. And yeah, I don't know, mate. That's a really good one. That's a really good one, and it's like one of the better suggestions I think because that's got me really thinking. I don't think it's outside the realms of possibility. But yeah, I think obviously if United do come in, then no one's winning that race but them.
Yeah. I mean, he's the guy who replaced Ollie at Brentford. It'd be quite weird if he sort of became his successor at Villa as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'd love it to happen, but I just don't think we can dine there. I really don't. I think, like, to be honest, that's probably your best use of 60 mil, right? Going and getting Ivan Tony. It, it can't fail. It really can't. Like, it's tried and tested. He is a better striker than Ollie Watkins, in my opinion, because he knows he's a striker. And he's got that kind of arrogance and swagger that you need to be an elite player. A fun one here. Return of Bert. This is the Bertie Trurier fan club. It, it's never going to
You're
happen, is
preaching to
it?
the choir here.
You
You're
are, but
preaching to the choir.
it's a shame, man. It's a shame that didn't work out. I mean, I don't really see him as an Unai Emery player anyway. I don't think he ever worked hard enough off the ball. Um, but I mean, like, we need wingers, so can we be picky and choosy right now?
Oh, I love him. I love him, but he's too polarizing. He's too polarizing. And, when we spoke about the need for consistency and
Mm,
the need for players that are going to produce week in, week out and deliver for the club, nobody loves Bertie as much as me. Nobody has Bertrand Traore printed on a Villa shirt, I don't think. I'm yet to see anybody do that but me. I'm the only one. Nobody loves him more than me. And even I must admit, he's so streaky. He's so streaky, he's so inconsistent. And he drives me crazy, but that's why I love him. And it is a love-hate relationship. And it's one that I've managed to get out of my life. I think that's for the better. I think, we've split up, we've gone our separate ways. He's, playing out in Turkey, which I think is the home. That's the home of streaky
it
footballers. If you're a
is.
streaky footballer, you go and play in Turkey. It's the rule. And so I think it's a perfect league for him. And obviously he's only on loan, so he will come back.
He will
Terry, I think it was Terry
eventually.
that put this one in. You're not wrong. The Burt will return to Villa, but on what basis we don't know. I would be shocked if he doesn't at least get looked at pre-season, but he's not coming back in January.
No, no, definitely not. Definitely not. I genuinely think Trezeguet would be a really good player under Unai Emery. I think he would get a lot out of him. I think that's a hot take. That's a short. This is a short in itself, mate. I think as
Mate,
assistant,
you're putting your
as
head in the slammer right there, man. If that gets out on Twitter, you're finished.
but
You're in the mud.
I have to defend myself. I have to explain myself. I have to give my reasoning. I don't think anybody works as hard as Trezeguet on the pitch. Whether that's effective or not, you can debate that all you want. But this guy covers some serious kilometres when he's
Oh,
on the pitch, and
I love it.
like we probably spoke about it about 6 months ago. Like history will be really kind to Trezeguet, and it's a shame that he didn't kind of get that opportunity to build on the sort of the survival and keeping us up. Everyone goes on about Jack Grealish keeping Aston Villa up. It was Trezeguet, mate. It was Trezeguet. Mohamed
It
Hassan
was.
Trezeguet scored important goals. He was almost clutch player that year. And listen, I know he's a completely limited player, but I do think that in this 4-2-2, I I think he probably executes the Leon Bailey role just as good as Leon Bailey is currently executing it. And that is my 2 cents.
My only question would be, has he got the tech? Is there the skill set there to play as a wide 10? Has he got the through
No, he's
ball,
the
the
striker.
drop?
He's Bailey.
Oh,
He's Bailey.
okay.
You take Bailey
Okay.
out and you put Trezeguet there, and I
Okay.
think it's you get the
Okay.
exact
What?
same outcome, maybe better. I love Leon. This is the Leon. Again, this is the
This
Leon Bailey
is, I
standard.
didn't see this happening.
This is where we
Wow.
lose all of our subscribers because I've said I think
Yeah, it
Trezzy.
is. It is. It is. We'll just get the band back together. Fuck it.
Why not?
So, I
Keep
mean,
these Smith back.
I'm
He's
I'm
been
so
sacked.
impressed that yeah, we've asked Villa fans this, and no one's gone for Tammy. I was really surprised that no one jumped to Tammy Abraham link in there. So I definitely expected to talk about that one at least once. But yeah, man, that's an interesting
Well, let's
one.
pivot away from
Uh,
Trezeguet and talk about Tammy
yeah,
because I am surprised as well. But like, and this is someone who we spoke about a few times, mate. I adore the guy, and like he is that season, everything he gave, 26 goals, phenomenal, magical. You couldn't ask for a better goal return from a striker. He's definitely been probably our best striker in the past 10 years. I think that's fair to say, even in the Championship. And he went on and had a fantastic first season in Roma. It's not happened for him this time, mate. And I don't know if this is the sort of it's the stand. It's like we're entering the third year of the Jose cycle at Roma, and it's we all know how that goes. But I don't know. And I think, like when we're talking about 60 mil, you're probably like 60 mil gets you Tony, 60 mil probably gets you Tammy as well, in the current market and given his current form. And like, where is that money better spent, mate? On Tammy, or on Tony? The battle of the T's.
Oh, oh, that's a tough question. That is a tough
It's
question.
not a tough
There's
question,
almost an
mate.
epi.
It's not a tough question. You know exactly what the answer is, but your head doesn't want to say it. It's the emotional baggage. It's not a tough question, is it? Because
Yeah, it
right now
is.
you
I'm narrative FC, bro. I'm narrative FC. I'm not playing.
so
If
am
you
I.
think I'm out here playing, if you think I'm out here playing for goals and assists, bro, you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. I don't care if we lose 4-0 every week. I am for the vibes. We're Aston
Storylines.
vibes.
Let's go for
We
it.
are, mate. We are narrative
Well,
FC.
let's
I
put
want
Trezeguet and
mobility.
Tammy up front then. Just,
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Get the boys back. Jack, get him back. Dino on the touchline. Let's have it. But no, on a serious note, he scored.
what is it? Four
He
goals
scored
this
3 goals
season
this
in
season.
Serie A.
Three, three,
3.
with 2 assists. So it's 5 goal contributions in 15 games. So a goal contribution every three. It's not great. It's not
He had
awful.
15 by
Um,
December last season.
he did. He did. Ask me in July. Ask me in July. If you can pick it up the second half of the season, I think there's a real debate there. I know this question is about the January window, but I'm going to, like a good politician, I'm going to completely pivot and say, ask me again in July because I can't answer it right now.
Well, you know it's Tony. You won't admit it, but you know Tony's probably a better use of the
I
money.
can't give it to the man that did this. I mean, Matty Cash just the whole end, so should I be that? I mean,
Uh, Maybe,
Tony doing the Zulu
but
sign to the Holte is
that was
definitely
pretty
worse.
iconic for Matty Cash. Sorry, I just got to plug my laptop in. But I mean,
I don't know, man.
we'll stay on the subject of Italian strikers in Serie A at least. I'm gonna
I
have to
know who
put
you're
my
going to go
microphone
to.
down right now, so I'm gonna let you take this, mate. So I need to plug this in.
I think, well, we got a really interesting one. We got a few players from Serie A, actually. Some, obviously, Sofiane Amrabat was mentioned. Olivier Giroud, says Daz. And I'm hoping that's the one that Dan mentioned. But yeah, Olivier Giroud is right in front of me. And when we're talking about for the vibes, when we're talking about, I love him. I love him. But this man is 35 years old. This man is 35 years old. And as much as I love him, he can't, there's not another move back to the Premier League in Olivier Giroud. I'm really sorry. I'd
No,
love to agree and I'd love to say it's the case. And he's one of my favourite players, honestly, one of my favourite players. Everyone loves Olivier Giroud now. It's really funny because he's everyone's most underrated player. But I think if everybody thinks someone is underrated, does that not mean he's rated? Can you
yeah,
be underrated if everyone thinks you're underrated? Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like
absolutely.
if everybody thinks this guy is really, really good, everybody knows it. Can you be underrated? I think the answer is no. I think everybody rates Olivier Giroud now, and I
Absolutely.
think his career is coming to a really nice full circle moment in Milan, and I want him to stay there.
It's where he belongs. Honestly, it's the perfect fit. I'd have taken him 2 years ago, maybe even a year ago, but 30, 35, 36. I think that's just. But like saying that, his game never relied on pace. Like it could work if you play up to. I mean, we spoke about him in the first year back in the Prem, didn't we? And we was like, get this done,
Yes,
and it never happened. But obviously, he's gone out to Milan and he's been fantastic. He's been stunning. So, I mean, that's one I'd like. And I mean, like Sofian Amrabat, it's no good point in talking about him, mate, because he's not coming. He's going to a massive club, and he's going to go for a massive fee, and he's going to be the next best midfielder in the world because he had a fantastic tournament. And I do believe that. I'm not being sarcastic. I think he's brilliant, um, and was really good at for Morocco. But I think that kind of covers everything, mate. I think
that was a lot of fun.
of all of them, Pau Torres, make that happen. But listen, if we can somehow get Trezeguet back, just do it, please, Uno.
Yeah, I'll shout out. Yeah, I like the idea of Pau Torres. I think that's one of the better fits. Shout out Terry Reid for the tangent off Bertrand into Trezeguet. Jack Grealish is interesting. I think it's really interesting to maybe revisit this one. Although shout out to Jonathan, who said just go and get Haaland.
Why not?
Oh, and one of my favourite was James Fox. I've got to shout out you, Jimmy, who said he would take the depleted carcasses of four Christmas turkeys over our back four at this point in time, which is just what a metaphor
I
that
didn't
is.
think
I've
they were
never
that
heard that
bad.
before. No,
Oh,
I thought, I thought Tyrone Mings was good against Liverpool. I thought he had a good game, and I came online and was like, "Oh wait, maybe I know nothing about football." But I actually thought Mings was okay. But yeah, apparently four depleted carcasses are coming in January. So we line up with Pau Torres, three depleted turkey carcasses with Sophie and Amrabat, and then it's just pure vibes. It's Trezeguet, it's Ivan and Tony, and that's our Villa team come January apparently. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for sending in your suggestions. If those responses are anything to go by, I think it's going to be a crazy January window. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, hit a like. If you've got any other player which you'd like us to sign, drop that in the comments. Dan and I will definitely get back to you as to some interesting ones if they're left down below. And make sure you subscribe. We've seen an absolutely crazy influx of subscribers this month, something like 800. It's absolutely crazy. We're almost at 7K when 6 was the target for this year. There's a shirt giveaway coming as well. So if you want to be involved in that, make sure you subscribe. If you've been living under a rock, we're on Instagram and we're on TikTok. The TikTok is at Heart the Holt, and Instagram is Villa Filler Pod. So if you need more Villa Filler content, because let's face it, why wouldn't you? Make sure you go and drop us a follow there. And we'll be back after the new year, I imagine, actually. Once the transfer window starts really rolling, there's going to be plenty of links coming in alongside the normal match content. And this is your best place to find them. So we'll see you then, guys. Up the Villa.